There are seasons in our lives when love, the very thing that's supposed to give us strength, starts to feel, well, heavy. Care gets deeper, our hearts become more watchful, and that beautiful love can actually transform into a burden. So let's talk about that. Let's explore how we can find some refuge when our sense of responsibility starts to feel just plain overwhelming. And honestly, it's a totally natural response. When we go through a loss, or when we're given this huge responsibility for someone we cherish, our care becomes like a vigilant lighthouse, constantly scanning the horizon for danger. And that's not a flaw. It's just a profound expression of our hearts. It's a reaction to the real pain and vulnerability we see all around us. But here's the catch. What happens when that vigilance turns into a weight that chains our hearts down? When our sense of responsibility becomes a burden God never, ever meant for us to carry? Well, there's a way to notice this shift, and it's not through harsh self-criticism, but through an ancient, honest practice that gives us room to just breathe. And that practice is the language of lament. It's an invitation to learn how to have a truly honest heart before God, especially when that heart is heavy. See, lament isn't about trying to rush to feel better or finding some quick fix. It's actually the complete opposite. It's about slowing down enough to tell the truth about the sorrow, the fear, the confusion, all of it, to speak that weight you're feeling directly to God instead of letting it stay trapped inside. And this is not some new idea. Not at all. It's deeply biblical. This verse right here, from Psalm 118, it shows us that calling out from our distress is a direct line to God. It's a practice that's meant to lead us not to more burden, but to freedom. So let's look a little closer at this weight on our hearts. Where does this feeling of over-responsibility even come from? What are its roots? Well, the thing is, this pattern doesn't usually grow from pride. Most of the time, its roots are in a place of really deep love. It grows from a fear of more loss, from a love that's been shaped by grief. It comes from this fierce desire to protect those who are vulnerable, and a deep, deep longing for things to just be made right. And in that space, it's so easy to start acting as if everything depends on us. But just notice how Jesus responds to this. His first words aren't a correction. He doesn't say, "You're doing it wrong." He addresses the burden itself. He sees the exhaustion. He sees that we're laboring and heavy laden, and his very first offer is rest. And this brings us to a real turning point, learning to let go. So how do we actually move from carrying everything to finding a place of refuge? Well, lament is what creates the space for us to figure out what's truly ours to carry and what's not. Think about it like this. On one side, you have the mindset of carrying it all. That looks like constant vigilance, a need for control, and it always, always leads to exhaustion. But on the other side, there's the posture of refuge. That looks like trust, dependence, and the destination is rest. Lament is really the bridge between these two. It re-anchors our hearts in God's strength instead of our own. And Scripture is constantly reinforcing this idea of God as our safe place, our stronghold. You see, taking refuge in Him isn't a passive thing. It's an active choice to place our trust in someone who is so much stronger than our own ability to hold everything together. Now, it's so important to remember that biblical lament isn't a dead end. It is not about sitting in sorrow forever. It's a path. It's a journey that is actively moving toward hope. This is such a crucial distinction. Laments give sorrow its voice. It lets the pain be real. But it refuses to let that pain be the end of the story. The journey of lament always travels somewhere, and that destination is a hope that's grounded not in our circumstances, but in the character of God. And here we see exactly what that hope looks like. It's not just wishful thinking, it's an active remembrance. This I call to mind. It's a confident, deliberate choice to remember that God's love is steadfast, that it never, ever ceases, even when our own strength does. And ultimately, the gospel reminds us that the crushing weight of all the world's brokenness, well, it doesn't rest on our shoulders. It just doesn't. Christ has already carried the one burden we never could. He promises us tribulation, yes, but he also promises his ultimate victory over it all. Okay, so with all of this in mind, let's just take a quiet moment for a gentle reflection. There's no rush here at all. Just let these questions sit with you for a minute. So first, just take a quiet moment. In your daily life, in your relationships, maybe at work, Where do you notice that feeling of weariness or that need to be constantly watchful? Where is that showing up in your heart right now? Okay, now consider this. What's the fear that's fueling that tight grip? What are you afraid might happen if you let go, even just a little bit? Just be honest with yourself about what that fear is. All right, now think about the burdens you're carrying. Is it possible you've picked up a responsibility that was never actually yours to begin with, one that God never asked you to carry? And finally, let's just leave with this question. What is one small step, one tiny shift in your heart or in your actions that could begin to move you from a place of control toward a place of refuge? Just for today, what might that look like for you?